Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate 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 Vasudevaya.
Okay, so we'll do the Sanskrit here. Pull it up. Let's see.
Do you want me to share the screen?
Yeah, sure. If you could share the screen, that would be great. Is that okay? I don't see the screen yet, right? It's not up. Okay. All right. 2631. Narayane Bhagavati Tad idam vishvam ahitam Gri itamaya ruguna Sargadav agunasvata Narayane Bhagavati Tadidam Vishvam Ahitam Grihitamayoruguna Sargadav Agunasvata Narayane Bhagavati Tadidam Vishvam Ahitam Grihitamayoruguna Sargadav Aguna Svata. Anyone else would like to chant, please?
Hare Krishna.
Narayane Bhagavati Tad Idam Viswam Ahitam Grihitamayoru Guna Sargadav Aguna Suta. Hare Krishna.
Narayane Bhagavati Tadidam Visham Ahitam Grihita Mayoruguna Shargadav Aguna Shata.
Hare Krishna. Narayane Bhagavati Tadahidam Vishvam Ahitam Grihatamayoru Gudaha Sarvadav Aguna Swataha.
Anyone else?
नारायणे भगवती तद इदं विश्वम् आहितं गृहीता मायोरुगुणः सर्गाधाव अगुणः स्वथा.
Okay. Synonyms. Narayane, unto Narayana. Bhagavati, the personality of Godhead. Tat idam, all these material manifestations. Vishvam, all the universes. Ahitam, situated. Grihita, having accepted. Maya, material energies. Uru, guna, greatly powerful. Sarga ado, in creation, maintenance, and destruction. Aguna, without affinity for the material modes. Savata, self-sufficiently. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, founder Acharya of the International Society for Krishna Consciousness. All the material manifestations of the universes are therefore situated in his powerful material energies, which he accepts self-sufficiently, although he is eternally without affinity for the material modes. The question put by Narada before Brahma concerning the sustenance of the material creation is thus answered. Material actions and reactions, as the material scientist can superficially observe, are not basically ultimate truth in regard to creation, maintenance, and destruction. The material energy is a potency of the Lord which is displayed in time, accepting the three qualities of goodness, passion, and ignorance in the forms of Vishnu, Brahma, and Shiva. The material activities, the material energy thus works under the supreme spell of his lordship, although he is always transcendental to all such material activities. A rich man constructs a big house by spending his energy in the shape of resources, and similarly, he destroys a big house by his resources. But the maintenance is always under his personal care. The Lord is the richest of the rich because he is always fully complete in 6 opulences. Therefore, he is not required to do anything personally, but everything in the material world is carried out by his wishes and direction. Therefore, the entire material manifestation is situated in Narayana, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The impersonal conception of the Supreme Truth is due to lack of knowledge only. And this fact is clearly explained by Brahmaji, who is supposed to be the creator of the universal affairs. Brahmaji is the highest authority in Vedic wisdom, and his assertion in this connection is therefore the supreme information. Om Jnana-timirandasya Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshulunmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanyam Hanhopishtam Shtapitam Jena Bhutale Svayam Rupa Kadhamayam Padati Sva Padantikam. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shiva Sari Gaura Bhakta Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Just read the verse one more time here. All the material manifestations of the universes are therefore situated in his powerful material energies, which he accepts self-sufficiently, although he is eternally without affinity for the material modes. So, who are we talking about here? He is Krishna. This is Brahma, the master, the first person in this material universe, explaining to Narada, his son, giving him the answers to the questions that he has around spirituality, creation, maintenance, and destruction of the universe. And like this, we also are able to accept this knowledge through the parampara, which is, as Krishna explains in the Bhagavad Gita, parampara praptam, the disciplic succession, one after another. This is the Vedic understanding of knowledge, how knowledge comes to us, not through speculation, not through evaluation, but through teacher to student, bona fide teacher to bona fide student. So we'll discuss a little bit about that here. Now, we are in the sampradaya. The sampradaya means like a spiritual lineage. There's 4 sampradayas who recognize that Krishna is supreme, or Vishnu. And what we understand is that if we are accepting and taking knowledge within that bona fide spiritual lineage or sampradaya, then we are accepting knowledge that has factual basis. And the Srimad Bhagavatam is understood by the lineage that we are a part of as we are understanding and learning, and when we take initiation, ultimately, through the lineage of Srila Prabhupada, the Sampradaya, which is the Brahma, Madhva, Gaudiya Sampradaya. So the Brahma, Madhva, Gaudiya Sampradaya is a spiritual lineage that delivers the truth all the way down from Krishna, as we see here in this chapter, in this verse. It comes from Krishna to Brahma. So Brahma, Madhva, Gaudiya Sampradaya comes to Brahma. And then like that, Brahma teaches Narada how to worship Krishna. And then from Narada, it goes to, of course, you all know, Vyasadeva. And it keeps going down the line like that, from Vyasadeva to Madhvacharya, then Madhvacharya to Madhavendra Puri. These are all spiritual teachers, students, teachers, students, all the way through to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and down like this to the Sarup Damodar, Krishna Das Kaviraj Goswami, Baladev Vijayabhushan, Vishwanath Chakravarti, all the way through up to Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati, Srila Prabhupada, and here we are, learning this science of creation, of the spiritual energy, of the soul, so that we can take that knowledge and apply it in our own lives from the teacher and become qualified students. And we can also, just like Narada is asking Brahma the questions that he has and relieving the doubts that he has, maybe not all doubts, but of course, we all have some doubts coming into spiritual life or questions. And we can get those doubts and questions answered through the teachers in the bona fide disciplic succession. And that's what's happening here. So that setting the stage for kind of where we are, how knowledge is transferred, and how we are accepting this knowledge a little, not a little differently, but very much differently than what we're thinking of it from the perspective of speculation, or thinking of it from the perspective of using our imperfect senses to find out the truth on our own. We're asking the questions from the source, and we're maintaining the understanding through that bona fide disciplic succession, or parampara, or sampradaya, and we keep ourselves centered on in that line of knowledge, then we can be confident that the knowledge that we're getting will guide us to the proper place. So we're very fortunate in that sense to be able to kind of be what we could call a fly on the wall here, listening to and watching, hearing this conversation through Vyasadeva, who's giving us this, who's scribing this out for us, who has the intimate knowledge of how this conversation went down, and allowing us to actually imbibe it and take it into our lives. So it's very, very cool stuff. Very, very interesting. I mean, how could we consider that we could be at the base of creation? Tuning into the conversation between the first created being, Brahma, and Krishna, the supreme truth of everything. Where everyone nowadays is so enamored by artificial intelligence. We think, oh, this artificial intelligence, it can pull some information and give us answers. And it does it on its own. And we can find out about this and that. This what we're experiencing and getting in this Srimad Bhagavatam is so much deeper and more robust than anything that any artificial intelligence can actually give us, because it's the source of all knowledge, and it's delivering it directly to us in a way that no living being, be it artificial intelligence or actual intelligence, could actually give us without connection to that parampara. So we're very fortunate in that sense. So we can kind of keep that in our forefront of our minds and meditate on that, so that, and keep ourselves connected to this sampradaya through Srila Prabhupada and not be led astray. Then we have a short pathway back to Godhead. And if we have a short pathway back to Godhead, that means that we can fulfill the purpose of our life. And that also means that we can find happiness and knowledge at the highest level, and end the frustration and sadness and depression that we ultimately find when we are trapped in the material energy. So it's great. We're in a very perfect position. And those of us who have found ourselves here studying this Srimad Bhagavatam are very fortunate. So we'll go on and look at this, the purport here, because what we're doing now is we're able to look at the descriptions from Srila Prabhupada in his purports in relation to these verses, because from our own minuscule mind, not to say that you have a minuscule mind, but I know that mine is, I could never possibly understand the scope of what's being spoken here without some guidance. So what Srila Prabhupada has done is giving us these purports, these Bhaktivedanta purports, which allow us entryway into this secret storehouse of knowledge. And there's so much depth and value and wonderful information in these purports. So we can just look at it and kind of go through it, not necessarily line by line, but we can look here. In the beginning, it says, the questions put by Narada before Brahma concerning the sustenance of material creation is thus answered. So the question, this is, as I mentioned, this is the process of spiritual understanding. Questions from the student to the teacher. And this is done in a submissive manner, in a manner of wanting to gain knowledge, not necessarily in a challenging manner, although from time to time there is situations what we see in Shastra where there is challenging situations, and they do become overcome and spiritual knowledge is transmitted. We're studying in the Chaitanya Charitamrita with Vishnu Gada Prabhu this month about the Chand Kazi incident with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And of course, Chand Kazi was very, you could say, inimical, or he wasn't submissively approaching Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. But when they came in contact and he was able to get the message from Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he was actually, his mentality was shifted and spiritual knowledge was actually transmitted to him. Also, in many situations, I forget who's the big Mayavadi. Is it it's not Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya, maybe, who was originally the Mayavadi. There's a few different instances from Chaitanya Charitamrita where there's Mayavadis that get turned into devotees of Krishna, and they didn't approach Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in a submissive manner. So the point here is, although we recognize and we come from a submissive place, so we don't have to deal with any maybe tendencies that we might have to hold us back in our spiritual life, approaching a spiritual master, a teacher in the spiritual lineage, getting our doubts taken care of, so to speak, and approaching in a spiritual manner, or in a submissive manner. This is how faith is developed. And or the term in Sanskrit is shraddha. We get faith. And that is the prerequisite for us to take ourselves down the path of spiritual life. Because without faith, we can't accept the teachings. So, but when we have so many doubts, it's very difficult to develop real faith, because those doubts are always clanking around in our minds, causing trouble. So, but those doubts don't really, maybe there's some value in them, but ultimately, if we stick with the doubts, then where does that lead us? It doesn't ultimately, doubts don't lead us to happiness. Doubts don't lead us to bliss. Doubts don't ultimately give us knowledge unless we get them answered. So it helps for us to move through that. Okay, so next part of the purport. Material actions and reactions, as the material scientist can superficially observe, are not basically ultimate truth in regard to creation, maintenance, and destruction. So Prabhupada is saying the material actions and reactions, everything that we see in the material world that the scientists are so busy observing, they can superficially observe these, but they're not the basically ultimate truth in regard to the creation, maintenance, and destruction. So now, what is the basic ultimate truth? Basically, the ultimate truth is what? That actually there's something unobservable by the material mind, or the material senses, we could say. The mind might be able to observe it in some way, but there's a deeper ingredient. And it's the ABCs of spiritual life, but from a material perspective, it's a vast ocean of distance, and they just can't figure it out. So much attempts are being made to figure out what is this subtle ingredient that is holding the universe together. How is it being held together? Is it dark matter? Is it black holes? It must be gravity. But none of them ever work out in all the equations the right way. So every couple months or couple weeks or couple years, they come up with a new formulation around what's holding it all together. But it just doesn't seem to fit with the other laws that they figured out. But here we have it. What's holding it all together is Krishna. And the spiritual energy is at the source of all the material energy. And it is the creator that is keeping everything in order. You can call it dark matter if you'd like. You can call it gravity. But ultimately, the source, the spiritual energy, Krishna, is the element or the subtle ingredient that keeps everything together. And there's not so much need for all of this endeavor to figure out what it is and to label it and to quantify it. Because ultimately, there's not the, I don't want to go so far as to say there's no value in it, in understanding or quantifying it. But the answer is already here. It's right here. And the answer is here, which will give us enough information to keep moving forward in the ultimate goal of life. But that's what's missing on the other side of the, let's say, scientific method, is that the basis for spiritual life and that what creates life is life. That basic formula is lost. So there's a lot of endeavor unnecessarily with, tax dollars. And a lot of people are making a lot of money off of creating a speculation around formulating hypotheses that have no real value. So, okay, now we understand what's the point. The deeper ingredient, Prabhupada is telling us, and what Brahma is telling Narada, and the answer here is Krishna. And so here, as we go on in the purport, the material energy is a potency of the Lord, which is displayed in time, accepting the three qualities of goodness, passion, and ignorance in the forms of Vishnu, Brahma, and Shiva. So as much as we may want to deny the existence of the Supreme, as much as we want the scientists or the materialists or the atheists or whatever we want to find a way to ignore the source of all things, as Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita 11:32, Kaloshmi lokaksha pravridho. Kala, in the form of time. I am the great destroyer of all the worlds, and I have come here to destroy all people. So at some point, everyone has to bow down before Kala. Never has there ever been a person in this perceivable material world that has not succumbed to Krishna in the form of time. So at that point, we bow down in that way, one way or another. So it's better if we bow down before that so that we can prepare ourselves for what happens next. And so these things are going on. This material energy is a potency of the Lord, a potency. And then there's, of course, what we understand, the three qualities as being described here in this part. The qualities of goodness, passion, and ignorance, the material modes of nature. And the material modes of nature are controlling everyone and everything in the material energy. Well, not everyone, but all the material jivas. Jivas are not necessarily material, but all of those jivas that are in the material energy are being fluxed and pulled and this and that by the modes of goodness, passion, and ignorance. And there's predominating deities, you could say, predominating controllers of those energies, as is described here, like vice presidents, you could say, or you have a big company and you have the head, and then you have those people who are in control of different departments. So from the Vedic literature and from the Srimad Bhagavatam, we can understand that there are different higher species, higher intelligences or consciousnesses than us, and this human form of life, we call them, Prabhupada makes them known as demigods or devatas, Vishnu, Brahma, and Shiva. And so many others, but these are the three that are controlling goodness, passion, and ignorance. So as we go on, The material energy thus works under the supreme spell of his lordship, although he is always transcendental to such material activities. So we can understand Krishna is who is being referred to as his lordship, Krishna. Krishna is above material energy. He's the source of it, but he's not contaminated by it. This is an important point once we get into the philosophical divide, you could say, between the impersonal understanding of spiritual reality and the personal understanding of spiritual reality, which the personal understanding we get from the knowledge here from Brahma and the Srimad Bhagavatam is the highest understanding. But like that, Krishna is the source of the material energy, but he is not contaminated by the material energy. And in that way, it's like the sun has rays coming from far away, very far away. The sun's rays are coming to us on the Earth planet. And as the sun's rays come, they come in contact with so many impure things. But those impure things in no way contaminate the rays of the sun, what to speak of the sun globe. Now, it's not a perfect metaphor, as none are, but we can get a sense of this, that Krishna, being the source of the material energy, is not contaminated by it and can move freely however he chooses to within the energy, material, or in the spiritual energy. And he does that in his various multifaceted, variegated pastimes that we hear about in the Srimad Bhagavatam. Now we can move on here. So we'll look. So just as we go, the proper understanding is that Krishna is pure and he is the source of all spiritual and material energies, as confirmed by the Bhagavad Gita 10:8. Aham sarvasya prabhavo. One of my personal favorite verses. So as we go on, a rich man constructs a big house by spending his energy in the shape of resources, and similarly, he destroys a big house by his resources. But the maintenance is always under his personal care. This is Srila Prabhupada giving us a more boots on the ground kind of practical example of what Krishna's maintenance of the universe and material energy is like, so that we can understand it more in our own minds. So like a rich man, someone who's got a lot of money, he builds a house. He doesn't even actually build the house. He puts the money out, and then a bunch of other people come together and they build the house, and he says, oh, very nice, very nice. Okay, this is good. And then when he's happy, then it's finished. Okay. And then there's maintenance, that people live in the house, and then people are taking care of the house with so many different servants and, cooking and cleaning and so many things. And the rich man is, sitting and doing what he pleases. And then once the house has run its course, then he, just like that, also chooses to destroy the house. And this is in the same way, Krishna is the supreme rich man as it goes on here. The Lord is the richest of the rich because he is always fully complete in 6 opulences. We are so enamored culturally by those with wealth. The Forbes list and the richest person in the world, and billionaire, this and that, and society puts so much weight on those who have, through hook or crook, scooped up a large grip of wealth. But what we don't understand and what we don't see is actually the supremely rich Krishna. And this is one way that people can become attracted and understand. If they want to be enamored by those who are wealthy, then the ultimate wealthiest person is Krishna. And he is full in 6 opulences, not even wealth. We're talking opulence. It's a whole nother level. The 6 opulences of Krishna are knowledge, wealth, fame, strength, beauty, and renunciation. In full. How can he have them in full if other people have them too? He's the source of them. Everything comes out of him. So ultimately he's the proprietor. He's the owner of everything, but also he's full in them. What's interesting here is, one could understand opulence. Opulence means extreme wealth, that which we really want to have. Knowledge, okay, many people want knowledge. Wealth, of course, everyone wants wealth. Fame, people want to be famous and well known. Strength, beauty, but renunciation, how is that opulence? This requires some thinking and some understanding of the more larger scope of reality and the purpose of life and the ultimate where happiness comes from. Because the true happiness is renunciation, in that when we desire after things, whatever they are, there's some hankering, there's some dis-ease in our mind, there's some lack of being totally fulfilled. And this creates a sense of unhappiness. So in many ways, being able to be fully renunciated, to be fully removed from the desires, is the greatest pathway to happiness, which is somewhat inconceivable for those of us who have been indoctrinated with so many ideas in the pursuit of happiness, and that the pursuit of happiness is in gaining things, and that endeavor will ultimately lead us to some sense of fulfillment. It's in the Constitution of the United States. I believe it's the Constitution, but it's life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. This is the ultimate goal of the Americans. But the pursuit of happiness actually is coming from renunciation and letting go of all of these things. And Krishna is the ultimate in all of these. And we, as the jivas, are constitutionally the same because we're part and parcels of Krishna. That means Krishna is the whole, and we're like pieces coming off of the whole, like salt or like water coming out of the qualities of Krishna. So the water coming out of the ocean has the qualities of the ocean. In the same sense, we have the qualities of Krishna in a minute quantity. And so as we understand that we already have these things within us, it's a matter of clearing away what's already there through the process of bhakti yoga, Krishna consciousness that is being given to us and delivered to us by Srila Prabhupada, so that we can uncover this for ourselves and uncover our true qualitative connection that we have and experience the bliss of that relationship with Krishna. So as we go on here, therefore, he is not required to do anything personally, but everything in the material world is carried out by his wishes and direction. Everything is carried out by his wishes and direction. Therefore, the entire material manifestation is situated in Narayana, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The impersonal conception of the Supreme Truth is due to lack of knowledge only. And this fact is clearly explained by Brahmaji, who is supposed to be the creator of the universal affairs. So Brahmaji, the creator of the universal affairs, is refuting impersonalism in these messages, in this directive, this conversation. Not as a matter of the whole purpose of the conversation, but in the conversation it is being refuted, as Prabhupada is putting it. And Brahmaji is the highest authority in Vedic wisdom. And his assertion in this connection is therefore the supreme information. So we're taking the highest authority in Vedic wisdom. So many people give so many different types of knowledge. Or let's put it this way, give so many different opinions. There's an infinite number of opinions, and with the advent of the internet and the social media and all of the different channels of YouTube and Instagram and every other thing in the world, every person's opinion is on full blast. So we can be pulled this way and that way. What do they say? What do they say? What do they say? From the Krishna conscious perspective, none of those, the only opinions that matter are those coming from the highest authority in Vedic wisdom. And it makes sense that we would follow the highest authority, because if we're taking a lot of, how can we possibly consume or take direction from so many different opinions? How can we choose which one is right? But if we can look and see that there is Lord Brahmaji, the highest authority in Vedic wisdom, and that Brahma is accepted by thousands and millions of advanced spiritual authorities throughout history, then we can be confident in our own choice to accept that Brahma is delivering us the highest authority, because ultimately, yeah, it does require some faith. Someone playing devil's advocate could come in and say, well, why would you accept this? I could accept that. I could accept that. Great. But ultimately, we have to accept something on faith at some point. And as we accept it, our life will then unfold in relation to that knowledge that we accept. And we can look to see others who have accepted that same knowledge and what happens in their life. And we can experience in our own life by trying it on, by trying on that highest Vedic knowledge, by trying on that opinion of Brahma, and seeing what happens to us in our own life. Do we find more peace and happiness? Do we find more clarity? Do we start to see things changing in our life? Those of us who have come down the path of Krishna consciousness surely and certainly have experienced in our own lives that things have changed and that we've come to a higher level of clarity around who we are and what's going on, and we find peace and happiness in our life. So it's a good bet to follow this. It's a safe bet. And we can develop this faith as we continue to go down, in which case, as we go further down the path, there becomes a point that faith is not required, in the sense that experiential realization has brought us to the point of full love of God. And we don't have any need for anyone to tell us anything other than our experience of that true realization of love of God. I personally have not had that realization, nor am I anywhere close, but I can accept and see that there are those who have. And my ultimate goal is to learn from them and to get to that point. And that's what we're doing here, and learning, and we're developing our knowledge. So we have the highest authority in Vedic wisdom. We can accept this, or we can accept whatever wild wahoo is spitting out whatever they want on social media. we should accept, and if we accept this highest authority in Vedic wisdom, it can give us the direction that has given so many direction and real value throughout history. We take it. If we take it, we accept it and apply it in our life, we can remain peaceful, happy, and fulfilled in actually attaining the true purpose of this human form of life. And we can do that very simply by studying this Srimad Bhagavatam and chanting Hare Krishna. In coming together with other devotees, taking prasadam, and living a very peaceful and happy life. So this is all I have to say for today. Please, any thoughts or ideas, I can open this up for any conversations, any rebuttals or disagreements, please also, or anything I may have said wrong. Please, does anyone have any thoughts? Let me see. If not, that's okay too. Okay, I don't see anyone's hand up. So if that's it, then thank you all very much for coming this morning. And
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Shashi Shekhar Prabhu,
thank you,
for the class.
Pranacharya Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Very good to listen to in the morning.
Yes, Jai. Trying to get some inspiration for all of us to keep focused. Panchakalpa Tarupyascha Kripa Sindhu Bheva Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha.